Okay, Elizabeth, do not mess this up. This is TEDx. What if I forget what I'm supposed to say? What if I trip on this red carpet? Oh my gosh, did I brush my teeth this morning? Come on, Elizabeth, focus. Don't embarrass yourself. That inner voice, that inner critic. We all have one. Mine, her name is Mitzi. She's little Miss Critical, camped out in my head, just waiting to screech out yet another condescending comment meant to bring me down. Oh yeah, she's there before I even open my eyes in the morning. Should have gone to bed earlier. You're going to have bags under your eyes. Walking by the mirror, you really need to work out. At work, he got the promotion. There's no way you're going to get it. You're a failure. In social situations, no one wants to talk to you, a loser. And Mitzi has an unbelievable memory for every single mistake ever made and loves to replay it over and over and over again. It's 2016. I'm at a seminar ready to learn. I'm dressed all professionally in my dress, pad and pen in hand. Unbeknownst to me until this precise moment, the instructor is a third-degree black belt, and out of the blue jumps up holding a plank of wood saying, "Put away your pens, folks. Today we're going to use the power of focus to break through boards." Break through boards? I'm wearing a dress and heels. There's no way you're going to be able to do this. As we approach and line up to execute the task, guess who's standing right next to me? Mitzi. You're too weak to do this. See, you should have gone to the gym. There are 3 people ahead of me. The first person gets up in front of that plank of wood, totally focused, and slice. Karate chops right through. What if you can't do that? You look like a fool. Second person gets up, totally focused, and slice. Do not mess this up, Elizabeth, especially in front of your colleagues. It'll be so embarrassing. Third person gets up. I'm next. Third person gets up, focused, and ha, ha, ha. She fails to slice right through. She leaves a few moments later with a bruised hand and probably a bruised ego. And I'm up next. As I approach that plank of wood, Mitzi is in a frantic frenzy of self-doubt. She's shouting at 110 decibels. Right, the crowd around me is cheering, but I can't hear it because that inner critic is drowning me out. What if you can't do this? You'll be so embarrassing. I go up to that board. I will not let it beat me. And slice. Except it wasn't my hand that went through the board. It was a rip up the back of my dress. Oh, yes. You see, when we focus on the board, our hand stops at the board. Just like when you focus on any obstacle, that obstacle can stop you in your tracks. When we focus on our inner critic, it limits us. It controls us. The inner critic can take over your life. And in fact, we are facing a global crisis that no one is talking about. Our inner critic has become obsessed with conditional self-worth. And the majority of us have conditional self-worth without even realizing it. So what is conditional self-worth? Well, conditional self-worth means I believe in myself if, and only if, certain conditions are met. And those conditions vary from person to person. So it may be, I believe in myself if I receive a certain number of likes on social media, if I get an A, if I get a compliment, if I'm a member of a certain group or have a certain title. Right? I believe in myself if. And this impacts every single facet of your life because what goes on up here controls what goes on out here. Mitzi determines your worth based on certain conditions, like how you compare to others. And we see this supported in the research that consistently shows that the longer people spend on social media, the more likely they are to be depressed. Why? Because they're comparing themselves to others. Look at how perfect her life is. Look at how pretty she is. Let's remember, folks, everybody looks good with a filter. So what does conditional self-worth look like in its natural habitat? Well, for one thing, perfectionism. That all or nothing, perfect or failure, perfect or why even bother mentality. It's got to be perfect or else you're a failure. Conditional self-worth. Imposter syndrome. I have a lot of clients who struggle with this. It's the notion that you're in way over your head and people are going to figure it out. You're not good enough for this role. People are going to see what a fraud you are. Conditional self-worth. Bullying, cyberbullying, the skyrocketing rates of cyberbullying. Do you ever wonder why people can be so mean on the internet? They're putting other people down to try to feel better about themselves. Conditional self-worth. Bragging, arrogance, you guessed it. People boasting so that they feel good about themselves. In fact, the next time someone tries to tell you how great they are, what college they went to, what kind of car they drive, this is what I want you to do. I want you to cross your arms. I want you to lean back and think, that poor dear has conditional self-worth. Mitzi tends to personalize what other people do. She has a very fragile ego. A study by AAA Foundation of Traffic Safety found that almost 80% of people admit to road rage. 80%. So you're driving down the highway, life's great, someone cuts in front of you, and you think, who do you think you are? You think you're better than I am. In reality, they aren't thinking of you. Right? Not because you aren't worthy of being thought of, but because they're in their own mind. And Mitzi is very threatened by other people's differences. Diverse opinions, backgrounds, perspectives, cultures, beliefs, they make Mitzi very uncomfortable. And when your inner critic is uncomfortable, she tends to share that stress with the people around her by putting them down. In fact, the only time your inner critic actually supports you is when your inner critic is so threatened by other people that it feels the need to put them down. His opinions are different. They're bad. He's wrong. You're right. For your inner critic, it's either Mitzi's way or the wrong way. As a clinical psychologist who's worked with clients for over 20 years, I can tell you we all have an inner critic, unless you're a true sociopath. But aside from that, we all have an inner critic. It's louder at some times than others, but we all have one. And I work with high-performing clients, people who on paper are very successful, even they have an inner critic. So what can we do? Well, some people think that the opposite of having an inner critic is to think that you are the best. But really, narcissism and entitlement, those are types of conditional self-worth because you're still comparing yourself to others. And superficial affirmations don't tend to work either, right? Trying to convince yourself, I believe in myself. You know what your inner critic says? No, you don't. So, are we doomed? Well, that depends. Every single person is good in their core. Each one of you has an inner light that you're meant to shine and share with the world if your inner critic lets you. But with conditional self-worth, it can really darken your life. I didn't get enough likes on social media. She's so much prettier than I am. I can't believe I just said that. I'm missing out on all the fun by staying home. These conditions prevent our light from shining. Now, the antidote to conditional self-worth is something that I call unconditional self-worth. That's when you no longer place limits of your value as a human being. And when your unconditional self-worth emerges, you can control that inner critic and your light can shine. Unconditional self-worth means you believe in yourself regardless. It's based on your values, accepting yourself and others. And focusing on unconditional self-worth helps you overpower your inner Mitzi. So when your inner critic is telling you, you totally messed that up, your unconditional self-worth reminds you, it's not failure, it's data. We can learn and grow from that. She got the promotion, that means you lost. I'm happy for her success, and I know that I can be successful too. You totally messed that up. You're a loser. I got this. I can handle anything. He has different opinions than you. He's wrong. You're right. I love hearing other people's perspectives and can learn so much from them. When we focus on unconditional self-worth, we can control our inner critic and our inner light can emerge. So, how can you cultivate your unconditional self-worth? Well, one way is to apply the values that are most important to you. Values? Do I have values? Can I buy values? Do I have to go to a Tibetan monastery to figure out my values? Luckily, it's not that difficult. So let's do a quick experiment, a quick exercise. I want you to identify someone who you admire, someone you look up to. Just picture that person right now. It may be someone in your life. It could be a famous figure, even a fictional character, right? You got that person in your mind? Now, what's one thing about that person that you admire? Maybe it's their tenacity, their sense of humor, their ability to handle stress, their confidence, their compassion. That characteristic that you admire in someone else is also what you admire in yourself. That's so good, I'm going to say it again. What we admire in other people, we admire in ourselves. Right? And when you apply the values that are most important to you in your life, that's when your unconditional self-worth can emerge. So what's one thing you can do today to apply that value? For example, if you chose tenacity, maybe you're going to stop procrastinating and start tackling that project that you've been avoiding. If you chose compassion, maybe you're going to pick up your phone and call or text a friend who's going through a tough time. And please keep in mind, it doesn't have to be perfect. So if you chose compassion, your first step doesn't need to be moving to Africa and building water wells for 3 months. It could be something as simple as looking at the barista in the eye and saying, "Thank you," when you get your coffee. Or writing a quick note to a teacher from your past who continues to have a positive impact on you. When you apply the values that are most important to you, your unconditional self-worth can emerge. And when that happens, your happiness, your relationships, your life, everything flourishes. So you get out of bed in the morning before your alarm clock even goes on because you're so excited about the day. You walk by the mirror in absolute awe of your body and everything that it does, including the 200 muscles it takes to take a single step without you even thinking about it. At work, you can be fully engaged and feel proud of the contribution that you're making. In social situations, you can feel comfortable in your own skin, even when you don't know anyone. Let's go back to that board-breaking experience. When we last saw our protagonist, her backside was inadvertently experiencing its own air conditioning. Now, a friend of mine, Anne, knows I'm not going to let a little wardrobe malfunction stop me. So she gives me her jacket to tie around my waist. And this time, approaching that plank of wood, the focus is different. Instead of on the wood, it's past the wood. Right? Instead of on the obstacle, it's on the solution. Instead of there's no way you can do this, it's you've got it. And with that, slice. I break right through that board and proceed to run right up to my room and change before I get arrested for indecent exposure. Isn't that a great reminder in life? Our inner Mitzi may be there, but when your unconditional self-worth emerges, your light can break through even the darkest of times. Thank you.